I came home earlier than expected and overheard my girlfriend laughing with another man about how easy it was to cheat on me and keep me in the dark. So instead of confronting her, I walked away in silence. Now I'm questioning everything after nearly 3 years together. I returned home ahead of schedule and overheard my partner discussing her infidelity with amusement. So I departed in silence. I am 27, a man, and I had been with my partner, now former partner, for nearly 3 years. We shared a compact dwelling in the city center. My work as a software developer for a fledgling company demanded long hours. You understand the routine, late nights, relentless demands, yet it provided sufficient income for our needs. My girlfriend, Kay, held a part-time position as a teaching assistant while completing her degree, and our life appeared stable. I had no cause for suspicion regarding our relationship. We experienced typical disagreements like any couple, but nothing out of the ordinary, or so I believed, until last Tuesday. I finished my workday ahead of schedule that day. My boss's appointment had been postponed. I thought I could delight Kay with her preferred meal and perhaps even catch a film afterward. It was one of those infrequent evenings where we both had some time to relax. It had been a challenging recent period. She was under pressure from upcoming assessments, and I was engrossed in professional responsibilities. I simply wanted to reassure her that we were united in our endeavors, regardless of difficulties. I pulled up near our residence, carrying the evening's dinner, and experienced a rare sense of contentment for the first time in a while. But as I ascended the stairway, I observed an odd detail. The entrance to our unit stood slightly ajar. My pulse reacted oddly. It faltered and then pounded in my chest, as if attempting to escape. I entered discreetly. I discerned sounds of conversation, unmistakably hers, but there was another person, clearly male. At first, I considered it might be one of her friends visiting. It didn't quite add up, but I avoided immediate judgment, at least not yet. I advanced deeper through the brief passage leading to the main lounge, and then the words reached me. Indeed, he remains oblivious, she was stating, her tone distinct and cutting in the otherwise quiet dwelling. I became motionless. I mean, he's constantly occupied with his job. It's not like he realizes when I'm spending time with you. Plus, I've got him completely under my influence, so even if he did, I could manipulate the situation. My eyes fluttered, questioning my own perception. Perhaps I misinterpreted? But no. The man chuckled, and I heard the distinct chime of glass against bottle. They were partaking in beverages within our shared space. He's utterly unaware, she continued. It's almost pitiful how simple it's been. And even better, he believes my distance stems from academic pressure. It's deplorable. My windpipe constricted, my hand clutching the meal container until my fingers blanched. My pulse hammered so fiercely I imagined it audible in the other room. I wanted to burst inside, challenge her, utter anything at all, but I remained paralyzed. I couldn't even draw air. Well, the man commented, his tone imbued with smugness, provided it serves our purpose. What does it matter? It's improbable you'd ever be discovered. That was it. That instant, my reality seemed to fracture, as if the ground had vanished beneath me. I had no idea of this man's identity. Perhaps an academic acquaintance, perhaps a professional colleague. It was irrelevant. What mattered was that she'd been unfaithful for an indeterminate period, and she was sitting there, treating it as a trivial jest. I considered rushing in, yelling at her, expelling them both, seeking explanations, but then an impulse restrained me. Perhaps it was their obliviousness to my presence, or perhaps the realization that any confrontation would not alter the fact that the individual I cherished and relied upon had become utterly alien to me. So, I departed. I rotated silently, retreated from the dwelling, and shut the entrance with utmost care. I couldn't afford detection. I don't know why. I walked back down the stairs, entered my car, and drove off. My hands trembled, my sight blurred, and I sensed an overwhelming constriction, but I continued driving. I avoided our residence that evening. Truly, I felt utterly displaced. I sought refuge with an acquaintance, someone Kay knew nothing about, preventing easy tracking. I simply collapsed onto his sofa in near silence, gazing upward, My mind plunged into a profound void. The next morning, I severed all digital contact with her. On my phone, social media, email, every platform imaginable. I offered no explanation. I desired her to experience my anguish. For that brief moment when I heard her voice deriding me as an oblivious fool. I wanted her to comprehend my departure, that she was incapable of rationalizing her actions, that she could not extricate herself through deceit. The initial period was tumultuous. She made countless calls, sent texts, emailed me, relayed communications via shared acquaintances, even appearing at my workplace. My device vibrated incessantly from all the unfamiliar contacts she attempted to reach me through. Every message followed the same pattern: bewilderment, followed by remorse, culminating in despair. "Why?" one message began. "I beg you, let's converse. I can clarify all. It's not as you perceive. I adore you." I remained silent. I couldn't, because how does one respond to someone who can deceive so readily, then attempt to distort the truth as if you've somehow misinterpreted the unmistakable treachery you witnessed? I wasn't misinterpreting anything. It was perfectly apparent. She wasn't merely unfaithful physically. She was demeaning me in my absence. She had utter disregard for my individual worth or our partnership. Additional days elapsed. I kept receiving communications via our common friends, inquiring about my whereabouts, telling me that Kay was distraught, weeping, desperate for dialogue. They were unaware of the complete situation, of course. I hadn't disclosed what I'd overheard that evening. Why would I? It was sufficiently mortifying in its occurrence. I felt no need to publicize it. Approximately 7 days hence, another revelation occurred. I discovered the identity of the man. He was neither an academic acquaintance nor a professional colleague. He was a colleague of mine. That's right, the individual in my living room, deriding my naivety, was employed at my own workplace. I don't know my previous blindness to it. Perhaps I'd observed him in Kay's vicinity on occasion and dismissed it due to my faith in her. But now everything became clear, the way she always inquired about him, casually referencing him as if a benign detail from my professional routine. She'd even once proposed socializing with him for beverages, but I gave it no significant consideration. And then, to compound matters, I found out he was also in a relationship. So not only was Kay unfaithful, but this man was betraying his own partner too. It was like a perverse sport in their eyes, and here I was, observing from the periphery, being manipulated. I considered challenging him professionally, but I realized something. They held no such value. I was finished with them both, and extending it into a grand, public confrontation would offer no solace, alter no facts, nor mend the breach of trust. A few days later, Kay appeared at my friend's residence. She must have deduced my location through common acquaintances. She was knocking furiously, weeping, imploring entry. My friend asked my desired course of action. I instructed him to grant her access. When she walked in, she appeared disheveled, makeup streaked, eyes inflamed and puffy, hands trembling with fear. I felt no pity for her, none whatsoever. She commenced with predictable apologies, assurances of it being a blunder, her confusion, the other man's insignificance, a mere lapse in judgment. But the more she talked, the more I realized she was persisting in her manipulation, attempting to dictate the version of events. She initially avoided full acknowledgement of the infidelity, instead uttering phrases such as, "It wasn't as it seemed," and "My intention was never to cause pain." Finally, I interrupted her. "I overheard it all," I stated, my tone unsettlingly composed despite my inner turmoil. "I was present that evening. Unbeknownst to you, I heard you mock me." Her complexion blanched, and her words ceased. For a second, I imagined she might collapse. She understood. She knew there was no escaping accountability now. I rose, approached the exit, and unlatched it. "Our relationship is over," I declared. "Further discussion is pointless." She attempted to object, moved to approach me rapidly, but my friend intervened. She collapsed weeping in the corridor, pleading, lamenting, vowing never to repeat it, professing her love, but I was finished. I was utterly devoid of further commitment. I departed, leaving her weeping in the passage, exiting her life without a backward glance. The peculiar thing is, despite the immediate devastation, a strange liberation enveloped me as I walked out that door, as if I'd finally torn away a large, long-festering bandage. Undeniably, there was anguish, profound, intense, spirit-crushing pain, but the burden of all that dishonesty and degradation had vanished. I was no longer manipulated. I was finished with being deceived. After that day, she ceased her efforts. The communications dwindled to nothing. I think she finally understood the futility of reconciliation. Perhaps she found another partner. Perhaps she descended into remorse and disgrace. I have no concern. What mattered was that I was liberated from her lies. But the workplace colleague presented a distinct situation. See, I considered resigning from my employment entirely, but why should I displace myself due to their self-serving choices? I refused to allow them to destroy my prospects. I was competent in my profession, and I possessed a promising career trajectory here, so I resolved to remain. Yet, that did not imply I would permit his impunity. The next week, I entered the workplace as usual, with composure, as if unaffected. But it was unavoidable to sense the strained atmosphere. He shunned me completely. Whenever we encountered each other in corridors or gatherings, he averted his gaze, seemingly anticipating an immediate outburst. I denied him the gratification. I approached human resources instead, with discretion and composure, presenting all necessary proof to reveal his character as an employee. It extended beyond my personal grievance. It concerned other colleagues, including his partner, who coincidentally was also employed in the same facility. It turns out, workplace romances were not officially sanctioned conduct, particularly when encompassing dishonesty and exploitation of colleagues. The repercussions were severe. His partner discovered the truth prior to HR's intervention. Information disseminates quickly through hushed conversations. By week's end, he was dismissed, his standing tarnished. As for me, I maintained my focus on duties and ensured no one again perceived me as easily victimized. I felt no heroic accomplishment, though no triumph was evident in any of this, merely a stark contentment, realizing I had purged the harmful elements from my existence. What surprised me most, however, was the brevity of time required for my emotional recovery. I thought I'd be tormented by Kay's infidelity for an extended period, perhaps years. But within weeks, the emotional haze dissipated. I no longer felt defined by the betrayal. I experienced a sense of lightness, as if I'd gained crucial self-awareness about the extent of compromise I permitted from a presumed loving partner. I realized that for a long time, I had been idealizing Kay. I thought she was this flawless companion, and I had overlooked all warning signs. The evenings she returned late with flimsy justifications, the instances she distanced herself when I sought intimacy. I had ignored it all because I didn't want to face the truth that our relationship had been broken for a long time, and I had been too oblivious to perceive it. I cannot claim full forgiveness for either her or the other man. Perhaps never will. But I've mastered the art of release, prioritizing my personal contentment. And yes, trust is now more elusive. It will likely require considerable time before I can place full faith in another. But that's acceptable. I'll get there. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that individuals are capable of profound self-interest, yet also possess immense fortitude. I am transformed from the individual I was prior to that overheard exchange. I am more resolute now, more discerning, and aware of my intrinsic value. I will never again permit such disrespectful treatment. Thank you so much for listening to my narrative. If you have any thoughts, I'd appreciate hearing them, so please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you desire more stories like this one.